What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Box Out Boys podcast. We are the NBA podcast of the people. Your home for lukewarm takes and substandard analysis. I'm Titus Two Shot Dominguez, and join me tonight, it's Chris Statsman Gorman. Hit him with the stats, Chris.
All right, guys. The stat I have for this week: the Bulls lead the league in points per game among the big three, with the big three at least playing at least 15 games or more this season at 65.7. Behind them is the Timberwolves at 64.9. So, according to this stat, the Bulls and Timberwolves are the two best big threes in the NBA right now.
Wow, that is a great stat.
Damn.
Also, get minutes tonight. It's the lawn boss, Joey McCrowski. Get that, Joe.
Hey. I said it because Chris didn't, so
Yeah,
just had to make sure I got it in there for the listeners. They got to hear it.
The listeners have to have their hey, and making that hey sound as delicious as Dove. It is our one and the only professional Adam Bruns. I love tonight, Adam.
They are sounding great.
You'll patch all that up. That my stumbling there. It'll be great.
Yeah, you'll be fine. I'll make you sound like I don't know,
Done.
someone who
Chocolate.
doesn't stutter.
Someone who actually does a podcast. There we go.
Sure, why not?
We got a lot of action tonight, man. The statement game of the year so far last night, guys. I think we're gonna start there. We also have our regular Bulls section. We'll be talking about that, and then of course we're gonna bring back a little Box Out Book Club. Joey's reading a book. Chris is reading a book, basketball related. And we're gonna talk about that. I think the place we got to start though is the Suns Warriors game from last night. Crazy game. Suns winning it. Even without Devin Booker going down in the first half and out for the rest of the game. Haven't heard any update on him, whether or not he's serious injury. Haven't heard anything. As far as I know, it's not that bad, right? Anybody know?
I haven't heard
an
anything.
update.
All right, no updates yet. But other than that, that was the main game last night. So, Chris, we'll start with you, man. What were your kind of overall thoughts, and then we can kind of get into a little. We wanted to do a little quarter by quarter breakdown.
I meant to talk about this prior. I was talking about quarter by quarter breakdown because I got really excited with what happened in the first quarter. The first quarter, let's see what happens here. Let's just talk this through.
Let's just talk it through.
All right, first quarter, I honestly just felt like the Warriors were going to run away, and not run away with this, but they were in control.
Yeah,
right. It was
definitely looked.
I think it was 35-31 at the end of the first, but there was one play with 3:30 left in the quarter where GP2, Gary Payton II,
Yes,
gets the steal, passes to Jordan Poole, and just splashes another three. He had 4 threes in the first quarter, 16 points in the first quarter overall. And it just looked like the Warriors were going to run away with it. They were in sync, in control. And yeah, man, I don't know. That's where I want to start with it. What were you guys thinking like early on in this game with Warriors Suns?
Kind of to your point, man. Early on, it did seem like run away with it might be strong, but like that the Warriors were off to a good start. Steph started slow, but they were still, like you said, I think a 3-4 point lead at the end of the first. Gary Payton Jr. was going off, Poole was going off. It definitely looked like the Warriors were going to be in command very early. Joey, what was your kind of early thoughts on the game?
Yeah, kind of same thought. I think with Poole going off the way that he was, there was in my mind, all right, he's going to have his moment here, and then Steph's going to come around. It just seemed like Steph was yielding a little bit to Poole, had not a hot hand, and it was a matter of time until it all kind of shook out. The Warriors looked like their casual, relaxed self to start the game. The Suns looked like they were trying to get into a smooth rhythm, and they seemed like they were a little amped up, jacked up at the start of this game, like they were ready to go.
In rhythm. No, from the Suns' point of view, it felt like they were kind of going to Ayton early, trying to get him rolling and get him started, which ended up proving to be a real good strategy for them. He was getting a lot of screener rolls, cutting to the basket, stuff like that. A lot of hustle or there was a hustle save. He had a hustle save to CP3 and ended up hitting a 3-pointer. Just reminding me like he's kind of sneaky athletic for a guy that looks like Bill Cartwright, but
yeah. Okay. I had a thing I was going to say for Ayton. Maybe I'll just say it now.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like, all right, I don't know how to even say this without sounding too out of the water, but he kind of looks like a younger Tim Duncan. But like if Tim Duncan plays 4 years in college, he was like fine-tuned and ready to go. When he came to the pros, Ayton did 1 year at Arizona, lost in the first round.
Yeah.
Big upset 2 seed 50. I think he was the 15, lost to the 2. And then came the NBA, and you can tell he's still trying to find his way a little bit. The guy does everything right, man. And this game kind of showed it. I think we'll get into it later with Joey's book. And Ayton is just the best player on the Suns. The fact they didn't get a max was blasphemous.
Yeah, and I just think, like, I don't know why. Maybe it's just to me. Maybe it's just his face or something. He just looks like he should be old and slow. Like he just looks like this guy that's gonna be applauding.
Yeah.
And then there was the specific play I was talking about where I think the ball was like going out of bounds, and he dove around a guy, picked it in, and like fired it into to Chris Paul. It was like this super athletic play, and for a second I was like, who was that? And then I'm like, oh shit, that was Ayton. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy. And all his dives to the basket, everything like that. He was just kind of, he was exploiting kind of the undersized Warriors, and it was a good
100%.
strategy. It really wasn't paying off in the first quarter too much because, like I said, they were still down, but there was a lot of good defensive stuff from the Warriors, and Poole was going off. But kind of as we move into the second quarter, there, Otto Porter caught fire for the Warriors, and Golden State started building a little bit of a lead. I think it got up to about a 9-point lead in the second. Chris, what did you think of that second quarter, man?
That was the highlight. It's Otto Porter Jr. just doing. God, the guy had I don't remember what it was, but
Go ahead, just say it.
He hit this sick, like he just grabbed the ball and popped it and just threw it up. And it just, the way that guy was playing infuriated me, because I was talking for years. I think we were doing the pod last year. I was still trying to talk about Otto Porter Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Yes,
just did
I very-
not
yes,
have
you
it
were.
in Chicago. And of course, here he is just killing it for Golden State. And I don't even know like if it's fair to say for Golden State. I was looking at Gary Payton Jr. or Gary Payton II. This guy's 29 years old. Did you guys know that? Like this guy's been around for 7 seasons.
I would not guess that.
7 seasons? I think 7, yeah. And or 5, at least 5.
I did not
But
know
7
that.
teams or 5 teams. Yeah, he's killing it right now. And like,
Yeah,
it
he's kinda coming into
it
his
looks
own.
like he should have always been in this league, like as a Caruso type. But
But this
I don't
was
know,
like
man, the
year 2
Warriors are
for
just
him.
finding their ways with these kind of guys that just they're lost talents that just need a chance.
Yeah, Warriors. I don't know. It seems like they're maybe got a lot of off-brand guys, but the guys that are playing really well, and they looked really good in that second quarter. They built a solid lead, even with Steph kind of not being.
Steph hit 1-3 in that quarter.
Yeah, he hit the 1-3.
And the turnover started to pick up there for them too in the second quarter. There was a little bit of sloppy
that's
play
true.
going on. Draymond had a few. Steph had a few. It just seemed like they were getting out of their sorts.
Draymond
the players
good
you
overall.
expected to. Yeah.
Overall
No,
in this
you're
game, he went 4 for 8,
Yeah.
but like I felt like he missed like 8 layups. Like every time there was just like a weird layup missed by him. I'll get into it when we talk about the fourth quarter, but he's kind of the reason why they lost this game. I blame him for the loss.
Yeah,
Even though Steph was bad, but Draymond
Steph
worse.
he was getting locked up. That's the other thing too.
That's the thing. And like Poole was,
It was nuts.
everyone's waiting for Klay Thompson to come back, but it's like what Poole did is kind of what you would expect from Klay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We'll get
I think the thing with Poole for me was like when he started to get hot, there were a couple shots that he took in transition that he probably shouldn't have taken. Like he it seemed like he felt, hey, Steph doesn't have it going. I can be Steph, and I'm just going to start jacking up these 34.
By night.
He's like, I beat
30-foot
Detroit without
threes in
Steph.
transition,
I
right?
can do
Like
this.
I can pull up from here, and I mean they were breaking, but he kept doing it. So that's the only thing I think difference is Klay is either going to be more consistent with that, or he's not going to. He's got the more maturity to not be launching those up.
Yeah. And then Booker goes out towards the end of the second quarter with a hamstring injury. Comes out, he's not going to return. We all in the group chat were saying that kind of maybe took a little buzz out of the game. But then, Phoenix goes on a run and it closes the gap. It was a 9-point lead, I think, at some point in the second quarter. And I think does Phoenix finish with a lead at half, right? A 2-point lead, something like that?
Yes. Yeah, because
Yeah,
Draymond
that's
missed
the one we had. Yep, you're right.
missed the layup and was mad that he thought he got fouled.
He thought he got every time he got
thinks
missed a
he's
layup,
fouled.
he's like,
He
oh, I
thought he
got
was
fouled.
getting
It's like, no, dude,
beat
you
up.
just aren't coordinated enough to hit layups consistently enough.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Suns crawl back. So looking like, with Booker going out and the Warriors looking hot, that, even with Steph, like we were all waiting for Steph to finally start hitting some shots, looked like maybe Warriors are going to start to pull away. That wasn't the case. 2-point lead going into half, coming out in the third. And I felt like this was CP3 kind of made a little bit of a show in the third. And Bridges was getting those passing lanes. And I think, Chris, you said it in our group chat saying that, well, we got the Warriors third quarter coming, so we'll see what happens. And then that never panned out. You know, the Suns kind of, I don't think they didn't really like own that third quarter, but they definitely built up a small lead. You know, Golden State ended up crawling back and it was close going into the fourth. But Chris, for the third quarter, man, what were your kind of thoughts?
Yeah, no, the third quarter, so like when Booker went out, it's like, oh shoot, okay, what's gonna happen? But then Cam Johnson, Landry Shamet basically did their best Booker impressions with Chris Paul. Just
Suns got some guys.
They got some guys.
They got some guys.
They even had Elfrid Payton on this team, who during the broadcast,
yeah,
Stan Van Gundy was like, they even have the starting playoff point guard for the New York Knicks last year, and Elfrid Payton. It's like, no, he's not. Don't
well, I was
call him
watching
that.
because I didn't notice him when I watched it last night, but I was watching the highlights today before the show, and I'm like, is that Elfrid Payton out there? It's like,
Right, yeah.
but it was so quick. I didn't
I had to
see
double
the
take
back
that
of the
too.
jersey. Yeah, I was like, what is going on right now? But yeah,
He was on
Suns,
Phoenix 4 years prior too. I remember. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. I mean,
at it now.
Joey, kind of going into the second half, what did you think as the Suns started to build that lead up a little bit?
Yeah, it seemed like when that run started to happen and the Warriors started to kind of lose their grip on it, Steph wasn't making the shots. Draymond was, as Chris said, kind of all over the place. Everything started to kind of slip. It almost seemed like the Warriors kind of said, you know what, this game doesn't mean as much to us as it does to Phoenix. And they just kind of not mailed it in, but they became comfortable with not having that game. Like some of their intensity came out of it, and Phoenix seemed to say, hey, we're on a 16-game win streak right now.
Yeah,
we've been trailing you. No one's talking about us. Everybody's talking about the Warriors coming back. And they seem to want that game, and they wanted it bad. They were also at home, so I think that certainly helps a little bit. But there seemed to be kind of a turning point in that game where it was like, hey, the defensive intensity is going to pick up here. And it wasn't even that like Bridges was just in passing lanes. I mean, they were physical on Steph. Like I thought there were a handful of fouls that probably could have been called for Steph coming off some of those screens where they just seemed to kind of grab onto him or throw a hip into him and kind of throw him off. So they were all up in his space and they were not letting him get to his spot. I mean, I don't know if it's third quarter or fourth quarter, but Ayton blocked one of his 3-pointers too. Like,
that was fourth, I believe. Yeah.
You've seen Steph get blocked by a center on a 3-point attempt. Like
he got blocked twice.
When I saw Ayton on him, I reminded me of Kevin Love on Stephen Curry, but Ayton looked confident on him. He actually looked like he could stay in front of him.
Sneaky athletic, man. Ayton. All right, we go into the fourth quarter. My notes, it was back and forth most of the way. I think about the final 3-4 minutes there when Crowder goes off, hits a couple of big threes, and then the Suns just kind of opened it up, and then it never really looked back. Chris, what were your thoughts on the fourth quarter?
That's what I was alluding to a little bit earlier. Draymond Green misses a layup. It's 94-91. Yeah. Draymond misses another runner at the lane. He doesn't get back on defense. We don't see it on screen, but the announcers mentioned that Draymond's barking at the refs. Draymond's guy, Jay Crowder, he's supposed to defend. I think it's an open three, hits it 97-91. And then before you know it, with 3 minutes go by, it's 102-92. The only reason the Warriors got a point is because of the technical from Monty, because he thought he called the timeout, and that's it. But from there, like when it was 102-92, game's over. So really, Draymond missing that layup, barking at the refs, and not getting back to his assignment on defense is why the Warriors lost. That was the turning point in the game right there.
Nice.
That was the whole game, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it really was, because that three, you said it put them up enough that they had that little bit of a cushion, and then I think the next play down, Crowder hit another three, and that was like, all right, this is it. You know what I mean? Like these guys aren't going to come back, and Steph wasn't at that point. The thought that Steph was going to finally start going off was done. He was like, he's wrapped up tonight. He's not having it. Joey, what were your thoughts on the end of that game and kind of how it looked?
Yeah, at one point, Steve Kerr, they flashed over and he had his hand over his eyes, just kind of like this game is, just in disbelief that this had gone the way that it had gone. And yeah, I think just going back to what I said earlier, like this clearly became to me a game of the Suns saying like, this is our game. We're going to get this. I think they're probably still pretty hyped up about it. And to me feels like the Warriors probably walked off and said, We lost one.
Yeah, we've only lost 2.
We'll get them next time. I think they play them again, right? This week or is
Friday, I
later in
believe.
This
Yep.
week?
I'm
Yeah.
ready.
So,
Friday
you
or
know,
Saturday, maybe.
I-
Yeah.
I would expect a much different showing
Emergency pod.
from the Warriors. I would expect a much different showing from the Warriors coming off of the way that they played in this game.
Yeah, I'll be very curious what happens there.
I mean, they lost by 8 and Steph had 12 points.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's
I think we all have the same takeaway from this game, which I thought we might get to, is that the Warriors lost this game, but this felt like game 1 or game 2 of the NBA Finals, where the Suns won, but you still felt like maybe the Bucks could come back and win it. Like,
yeah.
the Warriors still feel like the better team, to be honest. Even after this
Wow.
game.
Okay.
I don't
See,
know.
like my takeaway from this, and I have some bigger like overall questions for you guys that I kind of want to throw at you and get your opinions on. But the one thing to kind of start it off, to me, this definitely had a bit of playoff vibe to it. I mean, it wasn't a full-on like playoff game intensity, but it definitely felt like, especially early on, these were 2 teams that knew that this was a impactful game. This was going to kind of be a statement, like you're saying, Joey. I think the Suns maybe took it a little more seriously. Like, hey, no, we are going to make this statement, and maybe that the Warriors kind of backed off a little bit towards the end. But it definitely had that playoff vibe to me. Were you guys kind of getting that early season, like, hey, this is a real game on our schedule?
I think they did. Like, I know a lot of times players will say like, "Oh, this is just for the media," but like, I really do believe this was like a
calendar game,
a measuring stick game, where it's like kind of see like, okay, who's better than who, and this is one of those statement games.
Joey, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I agree. I think they both kind of felt that way, but I don't know if coming out of the end of that game, you actually have a sense of who's better than who. I think the Suns seem to have like the better collective team as a whole.
Yeah.
But I think the players on the Warriors, when they're going, can still beat that team in a 7-game series. It's kind of weird, but
I think
it feels right still.
There's one thing the Warriors are missing, though. It's that like Ayton dominated that game, right?
Yeah,
It
really
Bielitsa and Draymond's 6'7" ass on him. Like, Draymond did fine. He's the best defender in the league. But they're missing that like 7 foot tall, lanky guy who's now backup for Phoenix and JaVale McGee.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's playing.
But also like James Wiseman, if he was a second overall pick. This guy's got to be something, right? He's not like
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what he is when he comes back.
Yeah, I definitely think that was something I put in my notes here. Like, Ayton is clearly, like, at least for me personally, I think across the league, I think he's a little slept on as far as like how important he is to the Suns. And I think, I think going into this, you thought, it's going to be, Booker versus Curry or Chris Paul versus Curry. And to me, I came away from this game thinking that the Suns are clearly the better team. And I think because I think they're a little more versatile, I think the way they started going right into Ayton showed that they can play a couple different ways. They can play big, they can play small. And then the thing that really shined for me was their depth. I mean, Booker goes out, and we were kind of thinking, I know I was thinking for sure, like, this is probably going to be a wrap. I'm probably going to bed early tonight. The nap was pointless. It's going to be a blowout pretty soon. But, their bench guys came in and they played great, and they have, like Chris is always saying, they have guys, but they have guys that are coming off the bench and they're doing their roles. And to me, whether it's Ayton getting in the post, whether it's, Booker or CP3 in that mid-range game, and then the guys, I know they don't shoot a lot of threes, but the guys that are shooting threes, Crowder, Bridges, they're good enough that they keep you honest, and that those cut lanes and those dive lanes for Ayton are wide open, and CP3 and Booker can get into their spots and get those mid-range jump shots. So to me, I came away thinking that the Suns are the better team. We'll see it Saturday. It's another game, but
yeah, I mean, Cam Johnson and Shamet both shot 7 threes apiece. They're not like the Booker. They're not like Devin Booker. Devin Booker's
no.
The thing with the Suns, they need everybody in order to really. They're a whole team. Yeah. They're a team that is greater than the sum of their parts.
No, I agree
correctly
with
this
that.
time.
But I think like they have like we were talking about the Bulls about having a real like small margin of error. And I think the Suns' margin of error is bigger because of their depth and their versatility.
100%.
So it was very interesting. All right, so a couple other
interesting points. Sorry, one thing. Chris mentioned James Wiseman. I just happened to Google his name while you guys were talking, and the Warriors recalled him from the G League this afternoon. So
Is he coming back for
is-
Saturday?
They didn't say, but he's officially recovered from his right meniscal surgery that he had in April. They recalled him, Klay Thompson, and Damian Lee from their G League affiliate this afternoon. So
They're,
they
they're
clearly-
loading up for
they knew.
Saturday.
they clearly saw the same thing we just talked about and said, "Hey,
Hey, Aiton is going all
Ayton.
over us here.
you had your moment, but our time is it's our
Yeah.
time now."
Oh man, this is gonna be more pumped. All right, so a couple of big picture things, and then we can kind of get into some of our other topics. A couple of questions. I was listening to the Spinsters podcast. Shout out to the Spinsters podcast. Great podcast. If you're not listening to that one, basketball podcast, check them out. They brought up a couple of thoughts. Hey, actually, it might have been a low podcast too. I don't know. I listened to a couple ones this morning. But one thought I had was the importance of streaks. So this was brought up in one of those shows. Again, I actually don't remember off the top of my head now that I'm thinking about it.
Either one. All right.
Either one.
Anyways.
Yeah, sorry. I gotta keep moving. So the streaks, which is more, is it a big deal that these guys have put together what is now a 17-game win
Yeah,
streak
17, yeah.
Or eight-
versus
yeah.
like the Warriors? Warriors have the same record, but they just don't have that streak. Like, what do you guys think that this says about the Suns? That long of a streak, and seeing how far it goes down the road.
I was gonna let Joey go first. I'll take.
I
I don't think it cares. I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
You don't think it
so
matters?
either.
No, I don't.
No, I don't-
Oh,
I don't think it does.
man.
I don't think it does either. I'm with you, Chris. I don't think it does either.
Right.
I think it's important.
You
Like,
think it's important? Okay. Explain why you believe.
I just think when you put together this long of a streak, and I think this thing goes 18 or 19 games, it's just one, it puts you in some rarefied air as far as like a lot of teams just don't do that. And I think something it has been brought up on some multiple other shows is that at some point you get beat. Like think of the Bulls, against Houston or against the Pacers, where it's just a random fluky game that they just didn't win for some reason. When you can go that long, when you're talking about they went an entire month without losing a game. That to me
yeah.
says these guys are serious about winning the title. And that was the other thing, a note that I had. They did not look scared at all of Golden State. And they did not
Nor
look
should they.
exactly, nor should they. But
Yeah.
I think sometimes these big matchups, you see guys coming in like hyped or like amped up for it. They weren't amped up for it. To me, they looked like they were ready to go, ready to play. And the same thing, they beat Brooklyn over the weekend. They beat the Knicks over the weekend. In the last two games, they beat the number one seed in the West and the number one seed in the East. And again, I know people have been
So
saying
I think that's impressive. I think
Yeah.
that's awesome. I don't think the streak of 18, matters as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
I don't-
because to your
matters might
point,
be
like
the
you
right
said,
one.
how a team has an off night. It's like, hey, that's great. You lost a game, but it's like if as long as you can keep this, keep the whole season thing going, you're winning 80-90% of your games. That's more impressive than winning 20 in a row, but then losing, 4 of 8 or something.
This team's kind of reminding me, obviously not the caliber of players, but reminding me of that Heat team that won 25 games in a row, and the Bulls broke that streak. But that's
Yeah.
that's what it reminds me
Shout
of.
out.
Shout out to the Bulls.
Shout out.
When you have that long of a streak, and that team eventually went on to win the finals, it just makes me feel a little better. Like my last week, putting them at the top of the power rankings for the finals contenders. I think this team is serious, and to me, I came away from this win saying this is the best team in the league. And
Oh, Tice, you're 100% validated from
yeah, that was actually
yeah.
super happy about that.
from that. So, I mean, you can make an argument the Suns are the best team in the league 100%. And it just feels like you look at the top 3 in the East is Brooklyn, Chicago, Miami, right? And then the West, it's Phoenix, Golden State, and Utah. There doesn't feel like there are that many like good teams right now. Everyone's like 500,
Yeah.
kind of just scraping by. It's kind of a weird
Well, I think,
vibe right now.
I think that the top tier of the West is better than the East, but the East top to bottom, like I think there's more teams in the East that I consider to be really good. I feel like the West, it's those 3 teams. It's Phoenix, Golden State, and Utah that I think are coming out of the West, and nobody else. And the East, I feel like I can talk myself into 4 or 5 teams maybe.
Oh, I still want to mention we didn't talk about the Lakers last week. I think that was left off the championship thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to count them out yet. I'm just not.
They're out for me. I'm done. We'll get it next week when we do ins and outs.
All right, it's episode 42. All right, I'll mention.
Yeah. Joey, what do you think, man? Any other thoughts on the streak or anything like that?
Yeah, no, I think they could have lost that game last night by 8. You could have flipped the score around, and you probably could have still argued that they're one of the best teams in the East, right? Or in the West, sorry. So to your point about like, does the streak matter? I don't think it really matters that much. I think they could have lost a handful of games in there, and you still could have made that argument. No problem, just based on the way that they play and the numbers that they're putting up as a whole. If they happen to lose some of those close games in that streak against some of the bad teams, I mean, their wins weren't all blowouts. There were some struggles in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your exact question, I don't think the streak matters a ton. So yeah,
It kind of I feel like how Minnesota just won before tonight. They just lost. They won 7 of the last 8 games, and I think moments like that are nice. Like they lost a game in there, but hey, they're 7-1 in the last 8. This team's 500 again. I want to talk about them in a minute, but I kind of like that better. And like you might lose a game once in a while, but man, Timberwolves are looking pretty good. Anyways.
Except for the Suns, who have not lost a game.
The Suns have not. That is impressive. I don't know, man. Like
no loss.
In and of itself, that is really cool, and that's why, like Jordan wins 6 straight. In quotes.
In quotes.
He played golf, or he played baseball for 2 years.
And golf.
I forget he came back for that second. Anyways, let's go. He won 3 in a row, so that's really impressive. And winning in a row, it seems like it's more impressive.
It's just impressive to me.
It's
always
very
impressive
to me.
Yeah. And when you get to this level, I mean, it's a franchise record, and they're.
And actually, there was a thing that Tim Duncan, if he had, with the Ray Allen shot that they lost, that Tim Duncan, if they had won that finals, he would have been 6-0 in the NBA Finals. So he's 5-1, and like. Nobody talks about that because the Spurs were a dynasty, but they never went on streaks. They always just kind of won out of the blue. It's like, oh, this is a Spurs year, I guess, because they're always good.
This is an odd year. It's a Spurs year. All right. Well, one last thing on the Suns, and then man, we gotta get moving.
We've been on this
a lot of time on the game, man.
It's supposed to be 45 minutes total.
45 minutes. I know. We'll have to tighten up these next. Well, I don't know how long we go on the Bulls this week, but we'll see. All right.
I got one Timberwolves.
Real quick, a note that was brought up in one of these shows I listened to. Bridges, the best 4th guy on a team. What are you guys' thoughts on that? General thoughts. Like,
he got 4 steals in the last game for the Warriors. And Joey, I can't wait for you. I'm gonna like binge read your book next week that you're reading, your book, even though you didn't. You just recommended it. Michael Bridges, he didn't get the max money, right?
I don't think so.
But he's eligible to get it this coming up. Yeah. And he's earning every penny, dude. That guy played 41 minutes in the Golden State game, got 2 points, 1 for 4, but got 4 steals. He was everywhere.
Yeah,
and the box score does not do him justice. No. So, all hail Michael Bridges.
Box scores are lies.
Box scores are lies. The best 4 guy
in the league currently. So the best 4th guy.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even answer the question.
Yeah, that's all right. You just said he was awesome, which answers the question in a way.
Sure, he's the best 4th guy. Sure. Yeah, because they're
I mean, how many 4th guys are? Yeah, but it's just like it was a very interesting point.
Hang on. Kobe?
I'm just kidding. There's a few on the Bulls, not
it's Lonzo.
It's Lonzo or Caruso.
Well, no, I would say Lonzo over.
It's Lonzo.
No, it's Lonzo. Lonzo or Michael Bridges. I think I would. That's tough.
It depends on.
Those are like 1-2. They're like 1-2.
Like 1-2. Yeah, no. So I think that's a good pivot point to get into our little Bulls talk tonight. Let me switch this up. Bam. All right. A usual week in the Bulls. They had the big win over Charlotte in the Big Baller Bowl. The two brothers going against each other. Close loss to the Heat. Blew out the Magic, and the tough, brutal loss to the Rockets last Wednesday night while we were recording. Joey, let's go to you on this, man. General thoughts on the Bulls week overall. If you want to get into some specific games, go for it.
Yeah, we're going to skip right over the Rockets game.
Yeah, wow, that was...
Just going to flush that one. We're just not even going to act like that existed. We're also going to skip over the Magic game because that was a game that they should have absolutely won the way they did. Cool story. Vooch was back in Orlando. There was some happy feelings for him there. Wendell Carter had a good game. He's wearing sports goggles now. Looked like a jockey for a horse. Kind of cool. Heat game. He did. I'm sorry. Those goggles look like what you see a jockey wearing.
You got no
They were
Wagner
awesome.
notes, Franz and Moritz?
No,
You know what
I've
I'm
got
saying?
no Wagner
All right.
notes. We're gonna blow
We'll
right
move
past the
right
Magic.
past it. We're running along.
We know they got some guys, but we're gonna move past the German guys.
You got
Okay.
some young guys.
He's on my
The
fantasy
Heat
team.
game. Big note out of there. Bulls had 22 turnovers against the Heat.
Ooh.
Can't win a game when you have 22 turnovers. They
Just
still
as
had a
home
chance.
state. That's good.
Yeah, they
point.
still had a chance to win that game. It was not out of reach really at any point for them. It did feel like it was out of reach for most of that game. It just felt like they didn't quite have the juice to get it done. With 22 turnovers, there's not really much going to go on there. Going to move on to the Hornets game. Great game.
That was
Vooch with 30, DeRozan with 28, Levine with 25. Alonzo had 18 to go with that. Only 10 turnovers in this game, so cut that down in half. Really clean game overall. Big thing that stood out for me, though, 60% of their made field goals were off of assists. They had 35 assists on 53 made field goals. So the ball was cooking. Caruso had 7 off the bench. Vooch was 6 of 6 on 3-pointers, and those 3-pointers were all assisted. They seemed to be just looking for him. He had the hot hand moving, and they were saying, "Hey, big guy, you got to eat."
He's an
And they were
all-star.
letting him go for it. He also was starting to make some of those, what do you call them, Titus, bunny shots?
Little bunnies, yeah.
He was
Thank
making little
God.
bunnies. He was making the little bunnies. So it was just all around. It was all around a great play for him. And man, when this team goes like that, they don't have to play defense, right? This was not a great defensive game for them. It seemed like they just kind of decided at some point that we got the offense clicking. Vooch, Big Daddy Vooch is
Vooch squad.
Big Daddy Vooch is making it rain. DeRozan was doing his mid-range thing. Levine was doing it all over the floor. They didn't need any efforts from Kobe White. They got it from everywhere else.
He did get 8
great.
points, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
He's chipping in. You know what I mean?
Not anymore. We're gonna be without Kobe
Yeah,
for 10 days.
he will be out for
That was they're all fully vaccinated. That's a separate
I
discussion.
know,
We're
it's
not
great.
getting into
That's
that.
great.
Is it
Yeah.
Omicron?
But overall,
I don't know.
Got to boost up. I
That was a
guess.
great game. It was a great game for them coming off of the Heat game. Good to see Lonzo get a win
Joey,
over
quick-
his brother.
Quick question:
And
What's
big
your take
baller
on
brand.
what's your take on Javonte Green?
I
Played
don't
35 minutes.
I don't know how I feel. Like, I think everybody gets excited because he's like a cool energy dude, right? And
Yeah,
he tries to
Javonte's
dunk over.
out there.
He tries to dunk over everybody. Like, if you give him the ball with a head of steam from like 28 feet in, he just is going to put the ball on the ground once and try and dunk on your head, which I think is exciting for a fan. I don't know. He doesn't give you a lot. He gives you rebounds, I guess. That may be the one thing. I don't know the stats off of it, but I feel like he does get a fair amount of offensive rebounds and pretty good contested defensive rebounds. I feel like, though, having Caruso off the bench is better than having Javonte off the bench. So I think
Yeah,
having
Yeah,
Javonte
100%
in the starting lineup versus Caruso, I think if you have Javonte off the bench coming in with DeMar, it just kind of really gets chaotic and out of hand because Javonte just wants to run around and be crazy and dunk on people, which is fine sometimes, but in that second unit doesn't work. So I think for the way the team is set up, I think it works. The only maybe other thing I could see happen is if you needed to go a little bit bigger, you could put maybe a Derek Jones Jr. in instead of Javonte, but that might be a little bit much with Vooch and Derek Jones out there.
I like what you're saying. I think Javonte brings energy to that starting lineup that isn't always there sometimes for those guys. And then you don't need it when you have Caruso coming off the bench because Caruso's going to bring you that energy. Io's going to bring you that energy. You don't need 3 energy guys coming off the bench.
So bonus stat with Javonte Green. He is 10th in the NBA in 3-point percentage from the corners, minimum of 15 attempts
Interesting.
at 56.3.
Wow.
So it's he's a corner guy, and he's a
Up and
perfect you don't
He
need all
does
5 guys to
contribute,
do
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, he just does enough, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
How
he
you
does
explain that.
contribute. I just,
The Bruce Bowen.
Bruce
Give me
Bowen.
that, give me that Bowen.
That's actually not a bad
compared to
comparison.
what we've had, it's not the worst option you could ask for.
That's
No.
yeah.
And like you said, Joey, really like the Bulls week. You know, a couple ups, couple downs, but overall, still staying in there. Still currently sitting in the second spot, and in the East, one win up on I think like 4 teams: Miami, Washington,
Yep.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, they're stacked and they're tight.
Yeah.
Can the Bulls take credit for Kemba Walker no longer being part of the New York's rotation?
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
wild. I knew
That
Kemba
is wild.
was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad. Man,
I've never liked Kemba. This is
Alec
again
Burks is now
validation.
the starting point guard. Alec Burks,
Yeah.
the Utah. Anyways,
Anyways, all right.
they're,
Any
they're
other?
playing New York tomorrow,
Well, you can have
So-
them.
and then the
Kemba
Nets on
Walker.
Saturday, and
The
then the
Bulls?
Nuggets on Monday. Who Jokic is now back. So the Bulls got some.
Yeah.
Oh, and then they got the Cavs during the pod
Yeah.
next week, guys.
All
Bulls
right.
got a little tough stretch here again.
Another tough stretch. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I think I have faith. I think they have faith that they'll hang in there. So they're a good team.
All right, we're talking about the Wolves too, right? All right. Anyways,
Yeah, go
real
ahead,
quick,
go.
Wolves. The Wolves did something this last week that
Real quick.
that the Bulls were not able to do. That is to beat the Indiana Pacers. They won that game
Ooh.
100-98. You know, Domantas Sabonis got a triple double, an insane triple double, 16 points, 25 rebounds.
That's
That's a
need
lot
to
of
make sure
roast
that's-
beef.
beat me to it.
That was probably on that pod. I
Yeah.
listened
It was.
to that one.
It was a double beef.
10 assists. The guy, and he's a lot of fun to watch. I you know how
Yeah,
I
I
love
like
big men.
Sabonis.
I love big men, right? And Domantas Sabonis is just that guy that is just so crafty. But Towns really showed how athletic of a big man, how talented he is, and you know, against someone like Domantas Sabonis. So it's just kind of a good matchup, I think, because they actually had the Timberwolves have someone to counteract Domantas Sabonis, and Karl-Anthony Towns. Towns had 15 points in the third quarter when the Timberwolves went on their run to help close the gap. And everybody, the best big three in the league right now, and Cat Russell and Towns, or sorry, I said Cat Russell and Ant, really showed why. Like, if all those guys are clicking, this team's really tough to beat, and
They're going to be in the
hopefully they
mix
can all
this
stay
year.
healthy. So they're finally above 500.
Like that.
They lost
The
today
Knicks-
to Washington,
The
but
Knicks
man,
of the West from last year. I like it.
that's I can
Not a
say,
bad
hey,
comparison.
and
Good take,
and,
Titus.
and also Timberwolves and the Cavs were kind of like my two dark horse teams. They're both kind of doing. Cavs just beat the Heat tonight. I don't want to talk about myself, how smart I am all the time, but like,
I would like for you guys to bring it up.
but even so, I'm just saying the
Secret, he
Timberwolves
doesn't talk
are going to be a
about
fun
us
team to
really.
watch. I'm pretty sure Bill Simmons mentioned them as like the league pass team. Whoever that.
I got to dial
That's
into. I
bad.
got to dial into the Timberwolves. I have not watched them.
Nas
closely
Reed
this year.
plus 20 in this game, hit a 3 at the top of the key. He hit a 3 like how you and I would hit a 3. It just did not look pretty, but it went in. And this is a fun team. They just need some role players that step up. Taurean Prince, Josh Okogie, Jerome Noel, Jared Vanderbilt didn't play in this game, but those guys just need to contribute like 6 points here and there. Like the Warriors got all these guys that just keep I forgot to mention this, but Chris Chiozza
Yeah,
hit a 3, with 8 minutes left in the fourth for the Warriors. It's like, who's Chris Chiozza? What's this? So, man, the Timberwolves can get some role players. This team can be deadly and maybe even win a round in the playoffs. So, I'm excited. That's my Timberwolves rant for the week. We can
Go
move
for it.
on.
All right, Adam, please tell me you're gonna clip a drop there. That was there's a
what?
juicy drop there in that rant.
You mean when Chris said he loves big men?
Yes, I think that'll be a great drop for us. Whenever he's talking about centers, you know what I mean.
That would be the drop.
That would be the drop.
What's
All right,
the,
well,
I'm just with the sound.
Big centers getting tips.
big centers getting tips, man. That's all you gotta do. Tip it in.
Yes.
All right.
Big men, big tips.
Let's move on to our last quick topic tonight. Oh, we're getting loose tonight, boys.
Boy.
We got Jesus, help us.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
All right, let's be mature and go to our book club.
Yes.
All right, let's go to you, Joey. You said you're reading. Tell us the book you're reading, and then kind of give us a quick, quick pitch.
Yeah, I am reading The Mid-Range Theory by Seth Partnoy. Heard about it on No Dunks. Seth is a former director of basketball research for the Milwaukee Bucks. And the book is generally about the evolution of analytics in basketball. It's a complicated read, but complicated in a good way. It's not very math heavy, a lot of concepts, but he's doing a lot of work so far. So I'm six chapters in to kind of dispel some of the rumors about analytics, but also challenge some of the general things that the casual fan looks at and help you understand why maybe you shouldn't be interested in some stats and should be more interested in others. And I've learned a handful of things. If you guys wouldn't mind, I have a few points I like to go through.
Go for it.
I'll try and go through them quick. All right. So first one, there's a whole chapter about Russell Westbrook's triple-double season, his MVP season.
That's amazing. The whole chapter is, oh my God.
Pretty much. So the whole chapter is talking about box score stats and stats, players going after stats and how the difference in some stats don't always equate out. So this particular section, I'll just read it really quick, is about rebounds. So Westbrook's impact on Oklahoma City's defensive rebounding was essentially neutral. That is, once we account for the other 9 players on the floor, Westbrook didn't really move the needle either way in helping OKC rebound a larger share of opponent misses. Meanwhile, Steven Adams scored in the top 10% of all players on this metric. Much like the indications that Brook Lopez would be useful to the defensive rebounding when we considered signing him in Milwaukee, the Thunder were not just better, but a much better defensive rebounding team with Steven Adams on the floor, while Westbrook barely moved the needle. So just looking into it and really kind of saying like, hey, Westbrook's rebounds, he had 9 rebounds on average per 100 possessions, and the adjusted plus minus of him coming off of those rebounds was just barely over 1. So the team turned his rebounds into positive points just, about 1 time. When Steven Adams was getting rebounds, he got much less of them, but the team was turning them into actually more points. So just a really interesting concept.
Wow.
But he's not really taking anything away from it. At the end of the chapter, he really says, hey, a rebound is a rebound. Somebody has to get the rebound one way or another. So it's not to say that Westbrook was doing anything wrong. It's just to say that the team was concentrated on him getting a triple-double. He was concentrated on getting it, and there was a conceded effort to clear out other people and let Westbrook get those rebounds. And it's kind of interesting because if you look at it, I think when he went to Los Angeles this year, one of the things I kept saying was, man, this team's going to be super fun to watch in transition with Westbrook getting rebounds and throwing them out. And that necessarily hasn't been the case because the stats have proven that when Westbrook gets a rebound, they're not actually turning it into these super fast transition points. Yeah. So that was one takeaway.
Well,
the other
quickly.
Sorry, go ahead.
I would say quickly on that. That's a really telling stat because I think what you're saying and what he's saying in the book is that he's getting those rebounds that are easy rebounds, and everybody's already back on defense. So that's maybe why they're not turning into fast break points. They're turning into like a set half court offense where like Steven Adams might be getting something and then kicking it out and starting that transition. That's a very interesting stat. And definitely something to look at as why Westbrook is not maybe,
a top 75 player of all time. Yeah. And I always heard about that, like how Steven Adams was always boxing the guys out, wouldn't let Russell get the rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Because Steven Adams is just from New Zealand. He's just happy to be here. And, he got his due anyways. But I didn't realize the transition offense was that poor with Russell grabbing those rebounds. That was interesting.
Yeah, keep going, Joey.
The other one that I wrote down was, so there's a whole chapter about looking at box scores and really digging into plus minuses and basically arguing the fact that total plus minus and just plus minus on its own actually isn't a good stat to tell you anything about a single player in a game, which I think we've kind of talked about a little bit at times where plus minus is very dependent on who's on the floor for you and your team and also who's on the floor for the other team. So the whole chapter is about the different types of plus minuses that have been created to try and adjust for who is on the court with these players for the past season, and then accounting for the average of those people in the past and kind of extrapolating that forward to see like, what is this person's or this player's plus minus going to be? An example he used was in the 2019 and 2020 season, Wesley Matthews Jr. from the Bucks finished 6th in overall plus minus, just regular plus minus at 454, while Draymond Green finished 493rd in plus minus in that same season, when historically he had been first, third, second, and like 30th or something. If you remember, that was the season Steph played 5 games. Durant had just left, I believe, and Clay was out as well. So the point was, hey, it's not a matter of just this person actually is contributing this much plus or minus. Draymond wasn't solely responsible for the team being that negative. It was the fact that his team basically fell apart and he was all that was left behind.
Yeah, he's playing with Steph, Durant, and Clay, and then the next season
You don't have those guys, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. I'm buying this book right now. I'm just gonna have this hardcover delivered to my house. When I heard Draymond Green's, his plus minus was underappreciated. Yeah, no, I'm in. Yeah. I'm fully in.
So those are just 2 big points that I've grabbed in the first 6 chapters. There's a lot of good stuff. It's a good book if you're an NBA fan and you care a little bit more, just other than who scores a lot of points. It's a good read. I really like the fact that he's using like current examples that we talked a little bit about this before we got on. There's a chapter 2 where he's comparing Jimmy Butler and DeMar DeRozan in the plus minus chapter, and in the box score they look like identical players, but if you rip it all apart, you come to find out that Jimmy Butler over history is a significantly better player than DeMar DeRozan. So really cool stuff. Definitely worth a read.
We should write to Seth. What do you think he's doing now?
He was on No Dunks last week, so
let's get him on a show.
He's probably available.
Hey,
he's looking for
podcasts from No Dunks to the Box Out Boys.
You only go up from there. Oh no, I'm definitely gonna read this book too as well. I think this sounds.
I will
awesome.
send it your way when I finish it.
I would say, yeah, if you don't mind, I would.
I already bought it. This is good. This is awesome.
All right, you guys feel good about this, or Chris? You got any thoughts on your Scottie Pippen book?
My Scottie Pippen. I only thought I have one thing I want to say about it. The other thing is, so he was 6'1" coming out of high school. People always talk about like how Michael Jordan was like, oh, he didn't make his varsity team his freshman year, but it's like Scottie Pippen shouldn't have been an NBA player the way that they talk about him in this book. He went to Central Arkansas and he grew 7 inches after high school. And he was always a point guard, but then he grew 7 inches, and now now you're an NBA prospect. Look at you. And so he got very fortunate, I feel like, with that, because it's interesting. He had a tough upbringing, but one thing I can't wait for this throughout the book that I had to call this out. And it's just these little quips in it that like really like just get me smiling about it. So he talks about how he hated practicing defense in high school with his Coach Ireland. And he talks about how wrong he was about the benefits of defense. He's like, take the Bulls' first appearance in the NBA Finals against the Lakers in 1991. Phil put me on Magic Johnson early in Game 2 after Michael picked up his second foul. Michael couldn't contain Magic in Game 1. That's one of the reasons why we lost. I tried to keep the ball out of Magic's right hand, where he was most dangerous. How I did that came from the techniques I first learned from Coach Ireland. We beat the Lakers handily that day and took the series in 5 games. So as you can see, just like little quips like that, it's like, I'm the reason why we won our first.
Hey,
Damn. That's so passive aggressive. It's fantastic.
It's amazing.
The funny thing is, it's so passive aggressive, but it's also not wrong. I definitely remember that watching like the finals videos of that. They're like, yeah, Jordan was on Magic, and then they put Scottie on him. He's a little bigger. You could body him, and then the series changed. It's like, he's not wrong, but
he's not wrong.
You don't have to dig at people, man. We know, we watched it.
Right.
That's the problem, is nobody ever talked about it, right?
Yeah.
And that's why,
So
that's why
feels
Pippen,
like he's slighted by it, right?
Exactly. He should have gotten a Finals MVP. Look, at some point, I'd have to dig through the Finals. That one could have been, you know what I mean? If Iguodala got one,
I say if Andre can get one, he probably should have got one.
He should have got one.
If Tony Parker could get one,
If Tony Parker got the weakest of Finals MVPs. I'm on record. All right, you guys feel good about this one?
Good.
Wrap it up. Good. All right, man. That was another fun show. Thanks for joining us. And that's it for us tonight. And join us next week for talk more NBA basketball. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at the Box Out Boys. Slide into those DMs. Join us live Wednesdays at around 8:30, 8:25. Send us an email to theboxoutboys@gmail.com. We love answering questions. And as always, like, subscribe, and review wherever you're listening to this at now. We very much appreciate that. So for Chris, Joey, and Adam, I'm Titus. Until next time, box out.